Welcome back to Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio. News Talk, 1180 for the best in Saturday Talk Radio, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now we're in Albuquerque, New Mexico on 1000 KKIM. Our second guest today has been on my short list of people that I've always wanted to talk to. She was named one of the 100 most important women of the 20th century by Ladies' Home Journal, and to be honest with you, I think she's probably the most important woman of the 20th century. Her first book in 1964 was a blockbuster, A Choice, Not an Echo, and she's written 20 books since then. Our guest by phone is the president and founder of Eagle Forum, Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Hi, Marty. Good to talk to you.
It is really an honor to talk to you. I have to give you a little personal note here. 20-plus years ago, I'd written a book, and your organization at that time was really instrumental in helping me push it and get it out there. And you guys have been great in the conservative and pro-life movement, and thank you so much for everything you've done over the years. You've been great.
Well, I've had a great life, and we have the same old fight again, that a choice, not an echo, between the establishment and the grassroots. So we're all going to have to rally and retake the Republican Party and elect a good president who believes in America.
Well, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get a good president in there based on what we have now.
Well, and your last book talks a lot about who we have now. No Higher Power, Obama's War on Religious Freedom. Tell us a little bit about your latest book.
Well, he's trying to make this a completely secular nation, and of course a lot of the young people haven't read any history, haven't been taught any history, but our founding fathers, the people who put this country together, were talking about thanks to God all the time. They know God blessed us with the most wonderful country in the world, and they saw nothing the matter with expressing your faith in public. But Obama has this idea we should be completely secular, and the First Amendment should be redefined to mean you can go inside a church and shut the door and then say a prayer, and nobody's going to bother you. But that's not what we mean by the First Amendment at all, and we have to stand up for our right to thank God in public with monuments and signs and prayers and invocations and also all that sort of thing.
You know, Phyllis, when I wrote my book about 20 years ago, it was called Downfall, Secularization of a Christian Nation. I remember interviewing an ad agency in L.A., and the guy said, our job is to push that envelope as far as we can and then push it a little further the next time. And, you know, over the last 20 years, that's exactly what the left has done, is they keep on pushing that envelope further and further. Do you feel we as conservatives, as a group, haven't pushed back far enough? Because it seems to be going the other way.
That's right. I do think the Christian churches have let us down, and I'm telling them now they ought to be having their congregation pray every day that the Supreme Court will not redefine marriage when it hands down its momentous decision just this month. I think they've been the churches have been intimidated by threats of the other side, unpleasant treatment from some pressure groups, and the threat of taking away their church's tax exemption, and they shouldn't be at all, because they ought to be able to talk freely and preach about all the moral issues today.
Well, what do you think we can do to stop this trend? Because it's, like you say, it's going the other way, the other direction, and it's like a runaway train. There doesn't seem to be any way to stop this thing, and yet we have to.
Oh, well, that's right. Well, I hope your listeners will get my book. It's called No Higher Power, and although it came out last year, it's just as timely because Obama got reelected. And he is really on a rampage to turn us into a secular country. They don't want little second graders singing Christmas carols. They don't want valedictorians to thank God for getting them through their exams. And we shouldn't put up with this kind of foolishness.
Yeah, and we are. We're having a conversation with an American legend, the president and founder of Eagle Forum, Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis, you know, the abortion issue, which I know is close to your heart and mine as well. You know, here in California, we had Brian Johnson on last week, and he was talking about this incredible bill they're trying to pass here, which will make midwives and assistants allow them to perform abortions. Is that a trend you see going someplace else, other places in the country?
No,
or?
I haven't heard that, but you have to understand that the feminists control the Obama administration, and whatever they want, he will give them. And they are the most destructive force in this country, and abortion is their litmus test. It is the thing they care about most of all. The feminists are very anti-motherhood. They want to restrict our population. They want to make it, they were very resentful against what they call the patriarchy for a society expecting the mothers to look after their own babies. They think that should be in the domain of the government. The government should be running that. And people have got to wake up to what is being done to us. And, well, of course, I've been fighting the feminists for 25 years, but it's now clear that they're anti-marriage, anti-motherhood, and anti-men.
Yeah, incredible. You know, I know you've been fighting you fought the Equal Rights Amendment, 30-some-odd years ago? And
yeah, from 72 to 82, 10 years.
Yeah. Now,
and we beat the whole establishment. So it's a real lesson to the American people to know that the grassroots can rise up and beat everybody. Because you realize the forces we had against us. 3 presidents, Nixon, Ford, and Carter, practically all the Congress, except 1 or 2, all the governors, some of them ticketed against us, 95% of the media, and all these women's organizations, and we beat them all.
You know, to me, you're a living example of a theory I call the trickle-up theory. I remember I was involved in starting 2 crisis pregnancy centers, one in Tehachapi, one in Los Angeles. And, you know, it for a long time we got a lot of slack from the people you thought would support you, the churches and organizations like that. But, you know, the people in the churches were the ones that said, you know, we've got to stop this. And once the establishment, the conservative establishment, heard from the people in their congregations, then all of a sudden they changed their tune because they recognize that, you know, the people are more conservative than the organizations are. And, you know,
no question about it. For example, the fight that goes on in the Republican Party, the so-called establishment only wants to nominate and elect public officials whom they can tell how to vote. And the grassroots are interested in the 3-legged stool that Reagan won on, which includes the fiscal issues, the moral issues, and the national security issues. And the establishment doesn't want us talking about the moral issues and the national security issues. They want to stick us only talking about the fiscal issues. But it is the breakdown in morals and national security that the fiscal issues are such a problem.
Sure.
I mean, do you realize we're spending nearly $1 trillion a year on various types of welfare? You know, Hannity, I watched Hannity last night on television, and he had on a guy who has fathered 22 children by 14 different women, and he was proud of it. He thinks it's the duty of the government to support them, and he's looking forward to bring some more kids into this world. And why do we put up with this type of illegitimacy?
Yeah, and each one of us is paying for it. You know, you've talked about...
Oh, yes, the taxpayers are paying for it.
Yeah. You know, you talked about retooling the Republican Party. You know, how do we do that? Because the Republican Party isn't even getting the message out. They're not fighting Obama and his policies as much as they should be. I mean, how do we do it?
Well, my message is they've got to be active in politics. It's not enough just to have meetings and talk and write pieces and so forth. You've got to get active in the Republican Party. Since the feminists already control the Democratic Party, we've got to have one party on our side. And be active and support candidates and go into the primary so that you nominate the right people. I hear people complain that They just have to vote for the lesser two evils, or it isn't worth voting for. Well, that's because you didn't get a good guy on the ballot. He's not going to get elected unless he gets on the ballot. And you've got to be active in party politics in order to get somebody good on the ballot.
Yeah, incredible. When we come back from the break, I want to talk to you a little more about the Republican Party and about the amnesty bill as well. We'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.